That spring, Chinese leaders perceived a serious intimidation from international hostile forces and continuously adjusted their entire military strategy, expanding the army, preparing for combat, digging tunnels, storing provisions, and mobilizing the people to actively participate in air defense, anti-nuclear, and chemical warfare drills. During a visit home, someone internally informed me that my family's issues would soon be clarified by higher-level departments, proving that my grandfather was not a landlord but merely a middle peasant, so my parents' release seemed like it would happen any day. At that time, the Liberation Army was conscripting massively, and an old comrade in arms of my father got me into the army as a backdoor recruit. Uncle Tran, an old comrade of my father's, was the chief of staff of a military sub-district. Years ago, the 9th Army Corps fought in Korea on the heavily snow-covered Gima Plateau, where hundreds of thousands of volunteers surrounded the U.S. Army's most elite 1st Marine Division. The U.S. Air Force dropped a large quantity of phosphorus bombs and napalm on the battlefield, turning the night sky as bright as day. Despite the wall of fire built by the rain of bombs and bullets from the U.S. forces, the Volunteer Army launched torrential attacks, one after another. In that fierce battle, my father, braving temperatures below 20 degrees Celsius, rushed into a pile of fallen soldiers and carried out Uncle Tran, who was severely wounded. By the time they reached the rescue center, their bodies were stuck together by frozen blood and water. Nurses had to cut into their skin to separate them. Their bond could not simply be described as brothers in life and death, and since my parents' issues were also about to be resolved, arranging for me to join the army was no difficult task for a sub-district chief of staff. Uncle Tran asked what kind of soldier I wanted to be. I said I wanted to join the Air Force, hearing that pilots had good diets. He then tapped my head. Flying planes isn't that easy. You'll join the field army for me, train well for a few years, and then I'll transfer you to work in the Military Regions Agency. When I heard I'd have to work in an agency, I refused, saying I'd rather stay with the basic troops. I wasn't used to just sitting in an office. I had planned to return to Kang Kang Camp to say goodbye to Fat Tuyen and Yen Tu, but time didn't allow it, so I had to write them a letter. I still felt uneasy joining the army and leaving my good friends to labor in a remote mountainous area. No matter how you put it, there was still a feeling of not being able to share hardship with friends. However, that feeling disappeared 3 months later, when I realized how much more comfortable my time as an educated youth in Inner Mongolia had been. The conscription committee assigned me to a division that was about to be converted into an armored unit. Unexpectedly, by some strange twist of fate, after only 3 months of hardship at the recruit training camp, the Central Military Commission ordered our unit to Route 62 military post in the Kunlun Mountains on the Qinghai, Tibet Plateau, and the entire division was converted into an engineering unit. Actually, this was nothing strange. At that time, troops nationwide had to dig tunnels and build infrastructure defenses such as air raid shelters, ammunition bunkers, strategic hideouts, etc. Almost every soldier in the entire army was digging tunnels, the only difference being that my unit would switch from amateur tunnel digging to professional tunnel digging. Our mission was classified as top secret to build a massive base deep inside the Kunlun Mountains. Although no one clearly informed the soldiers of the base's purpose, anyone with a bit of common sense could probably guess it. There were confidentiality regulations in the military, so people never spoke about this normally. There were also rumors that after completing this mission, we would be transferred back to the field army. The Kunlun Mountains, also known as Kunlun Yuko, are 4,767 meters above sea level. In geological terms, these mountains are a type of multi-year glacial desert landform, formed by rock strata transformed from ancient decomposed compounds. Our division, from top to bottom, knew nothing about construction work besides digging trenches. So, the military specially dispatched many engineers and technicians to provide guidance and conduct rapid training for commanders and soldiers within 5 months. My detachment was assigned to send a pioneering squad south, crossing Bat Dong Tuyen, the unfreezing spring, and advancing deep into the vast Kunlun Mountains. Our mission was to find a suitable hidden location for the construction project. Bat Dong Tuyen is located on the north bank of the Kunlun River, also known as Kunlun Spring. Granite slabs form its walls and crystal Clear spring water has continuously flowed for tens of thousands of years. Even in icy winters, it never freezes, and no one knows its origin. Superiors had forbidden soldiers from bathing here because the local Tibetan people consider this a sacred spring and frequently worship it. Before Tibet was liberated, a large army once passed through here, and at that time there were no regulations. 3 soldiers went down to bathe in the spring on their own, but all drowned. The cause of death was said to be a very high concentration of saltpeter and sulfur in the water. The graves of those 3 soldiers are not far from a military post, where our last supply station was also located. Finally, we entered the Kunlun mountains. Everyone seemed to develop severe altitude sickness. Everyone's faces turned purple, their eyes and noses darkened, and their minds seemed to produce hallucinations. The Kunlun mountains stood majestically with countless peaks and valleys, like giant silver, gray dragons surging forward. Our squad of 10 looked no different from tiny lost ants amidst this boundless majestic mountain range. On the march, I suddenly remembered an old book my grandfather had left behind. The book recorded that the 5,000 mountains in Kunlun were the ancient dragon veins of the entire world. These mountain ranges have hidden countless mysteries within them since ancient times. Legend has it that the mausoleum of the heroic King Kasser and the Great Gate leading to the Demon Kingdom in Tibetan mythology are all within this magnificent mountain range. The pioneer team's mission was to find a suitable construction site. Besides us soldiers, there were also 2 architects, 1 surveying engineer, and 1 geological exploration engineer. After leaving the vehicles behind, we had been walking in the mountains for 2 full days. On the afternoon of the 2nd day, as everyone set up tents to rest, the sky was thick with sluggish clouds, with occasional snowflakes fluttering down. It looked like a heavy snowfall would definitely come by evening. All 4 engineers were bespectacled intellectuals. They could not adapt to the harsh plateau environment. As soon as they laid down in their tents, they started panting heavily, and hearing their breaths, everyone worried about their frail bodies. The political commissar leading the team, the squad leader and the medic quickly mixed antipyretics for them to drink, advising them to eat a little, because the less they ate, the more they would feel oxygen deprived. The soldiers were all robust. When they joined the army, they had to train daily by running 5 kilometers cross country at the recruit training school, so their ability to adapt to the environment was very strong. By now, everyone had basically adapted to this oxygen-deprived environment. Everyone used specially made anthracite to light a campfire, sat around the fire to warm up, and then ate half-cooked noodles with dry rations. This area was too high, water couldn't boil, so the noodles could only be half-cooked. My relatively close comrades included Brother Du from northeast Heilongjiang, Caoa from Tibet, and the 16-year-old messenger Tiu Lam from Jilin. The few of us gulped down a few mouthfuls and finished our bowls of noodles, then chatted for a bit before going to rest. Eating a meal on the plateau felt more exhausting than cross-country marching on the plains. Tiu Lam rested for a while and then told me, "Brother Nyat, you joined the army from the city, you're widely read and knowledgeable, tell us a story." Brother Du also chimed in, "Oh my, I find this Nyat fellow too secretive. We still have a squad meeting later, and we won't be resting early anyway, so just tell us a story." Caoa didn't speak Mandarin fluently, but he understood it. He also wanted to say something, but after mouthing for a while, he just stared blankly, unable to remember what he intended to say. He ended up pointing directly at me, and I guessed he was basically telling me to tell the story, that he wanted to hear it too. I stuck out my tongue and replied, "Such thin air, and you're still interested? All right, since you comrades want to hear it, I'll chat for a bit. If the squad leader gives me a hard time during the meeting later, you all have to speak up for me." Why did I say that? Because the squad leader normally found me irritating. He enlisted from the countryside, served like a daughter-in-law in her in-law's house for 5 years in the army just to become a paltry squad leader, so he particularly disliked backdoor recruits like me, who were children of high-ranking cadres. Every time there was a squad meeting, he would make me speak first, then criticize and point out my flaws. This had become a rule, driving me mad, and I didn't want to reply anymore. But what story should I tell now? The total number of books I had read was less than 10. Among them were 4 volumes of Chairman Mao's selected works, 1 volume of Chairman Mao's quotations dictionary. The Red Sun was also considered 1 volume, and Youth Guard was another volume. But I had already told all those stories. There was also a book on Feng Shui secrets, but I didn't think they would understand it. I racked my brain and finally remembered a book I had borrowed from Dean Hu Bayi when I was working in Inner Mongolia. It was a handwritten notebook recording folk legends, mainly about the organization and activities of the Plum Blossom Party 1. Besides that, there were quite a few strange stories from that time, among which the story of 100 Sets of 3 Beauties left a very deep impression on me. The story took place on a train from Beijing to Nanjing. The student Tru Binbin took this train home to Nanjing. The passenger sitting opposite her was a handsome and charming Liberation Army officer. Whether by chance or design, the two struck up a conversation. Tru Binbin was captivated by the young officer's radiant demeanor and charming way of speaking. Through their conversation, she learned that the officer came from a good family and was well educated. Tru Binbin even dreamed of marrying him. Soon, the train arrived at Nanjing Station. The officer invited Tru Binbin to a restaurant near the station to talk. During the meal, he excused himself to make a phone call. When he returned, he handed her a letter and asked her to deliver it home. Hearing him say he had an urgent mission and had to rush back to his unit, unable to go home right away, Tru Binbin immediately agreed without hesitation. The two lingered together before finally parting ways. The next day, Tru Binbin brought the letter to the officer's house. She was greeted by an old woman who opened the letter, read it, and then warmly invited Bin inside to sit and drink water. Tru Binbin drank a few sips of tea and exchanged a few words with the old woman when she suddenly felt dizzy and faint, falling to the ground. A bucket of ice, cold water drenched Binbin, jolting her awake. She found herself stripped naked, tied to a bench, with the 4 surrounding walls covered in human skin. The people standing around her were the old woman from earlier and several burly henchmen. The old woman took out the letter and held it in front of Tru Binbin for her to see. The letter contained only 1 sentence. "The 100th beauty's skin has been delivered, please check." The old woman smiled coldly and said, "You're about to die, so I'll let you die clearly. We are a secret special ops team. We strip the skin from girls like you to stuff explosives inside. All 100 sets of human skin are finally complete." Saying this, she pulled out a gleaming scraping knife and handed it to one of her henchmen. The scraping knife was a specialized tool used specifically for skinning. The burly man brought the knife down towards Tru Binbin's head amidst her desperate screams. I was getting into the story when the squad leader ran over and cut me off. "Don't tell anymore. Don't tell anymore. Ho Batnyat. What nonsense are you making up, comrade? Everyone's meeting now. If you like to keep quiet, then later I'll make you speak first, all right?" I quickly stood at attention and mimicked the squad leader's voice, replying, "No. No. Why should I speak first? If anyone speaks, it should be CAO's turn. Equality for everyone is the principle of socialism, isn't it?" The squad leader said again, "Comrade Nyat, why are you speaking like that? I request that you do not imitate the way I speak. I am the squad leader. If I tell you to speak, you must speak. There is no absolute egalitarianism." I looked at my comrades sitting around. Everyone looked very serious, waiting for me to speak. CAOA, while the squad leader wasn't paying attention, even stuck out his tongue to tease me. These guys truly had no sense of justice. Now, the only way was to save myself. Reporting squad leader, "What issue are we discussing today? You haven't clearly stated it, so how do you expect me to speak?" Just then, the political commissar walked over. Political Commissar Li Qin, over 30 years old, of medium build, a refined person, and also a seasoned soldier of many years. He treated his fellow soldiers very well, never putting on airs. He said to everyone, "Comrades, are you having a meeting? I'll observe for a bit." The squad leader quickly ran to greet the political commissar. The commissar just waved his hand, indicating for everyone to continue, not to let his presence affect the meeting. This squad leader's actual ability was very poor. Seeing the political commissar sitting next to him, he became tense and didn't know what to say. Perhaps he thought singing a song would be relatively simple, so he told everyone, "Comrades, let's sing a revolutionary song to boost our spirits. What do you all think?" We soldiers responded in unison, "All right." The political commissar sitting nearby almost choked with laughter and quickly feigned a cough to conceal it. The squad leader found nothing funny at all. He put on a serious face and raised both hands, conducting as if leading an orchestra. "Comrades, I'll start first now. Mount Erlang. 2. 3. Oh, Mount Erlang, its myriad peaks still echo with songs. Oh, our liberation army, like tempered steel, charging forward with boundless spirit. Despite winds and snow blanketing all paths, we build a broad road to Tibet." The snow fell heavier and heavier. The chorus of over 10 soldiers echoed amidst the snowflakes scattered across the Kunlun lands. It was hard to tell whether the sky-filled snowflakes and vast mountain ranges echoed the majestic military song, or if the military song embellished the desolate tranquility of the Kunlun range. For a moment, even the construction engineers lying in their tents were drawn in by this resounding song. They forgot all about their altitude sickness, gazing at the stretching mountain ranges to the sound of the military anthem, their hearts stirring.